Hey there, my name is Nathan Mills, and I'd like to welcome you to Music with Mills. In this show, I'm just going to kind of create a song from scratch, so to speak, with a few instruments and some software. And I'd invite you to join me in either making music or just getting inspired creatively. So I'm going to head over here to the table I've got set up with the instruments we'll be using today. So I've got a keyboard, a guitar, and some software on my computer. And we're just going to try to, again, create a song from scratch here in a kind of short amount of time. So we'll see what we can come up with. Now, typically, if I'm starting out making a song, just starting from nothing, there's no specific theme or inspiration, I'll just start selecting various sounds from different categories that I've got going on here. So I've got the category of sounds pianos and keys pulled up here. So I'll just start kind of playing some different chords and we'll see what instruments we get. So that instrument was the electric tubes is what it's called. And for instance, this one's called phantom rotation, kind of like an organ type sound. So we'll just continue going through these until maybe we find something that piques our interest enough to start moving around with it. Here's one called Dirty Back Roads. Okay, now that sounds like something I'm willing to maybe start messing around with. You can hear that there's kind of that staticky crackle going on, which is fun. So here to add a little more, maybe a little more unique style to this sound, I'm gonna add something called a chamber trio delay. So you can kind of hear that that's not only delaying the notes, but also adding kind of higher and lower frequencies there. I don't know if that's exactly what I'm looking for with a sound like this, though. It makes the static a little too loud for my taste. So I'm going to try another kind of reverby delay type of effect called out of orbit, and we'll see. So you can hear that delay really, really draws things out. So I'm going to pull that down quite a ways. Okay. And then I'm going to add some reverb on top of that delay to get even more of a kind of a, again, looking for a unique kind of full sound here. So I'm going to add a reverb called basement, which, as you might guess, just kind of emulates the sound of this instrument in a basement. So now that sounds pretty close to a sound I'm willing to start kind of working with here as we're looking for something. So, and I even kind of that chord pattern of C, D, it's kind of something I'm looking for, going into that E minor, and then I think I might pull back to that C. Okay, so now that I've kind of got an idea of chords that I want to work with and that sound particular that I want to work with, I'm going to start kind of tapping that tempo into the software here. So it looks like it's about 68, 67 BPM, and I'll turn the metronome on there, and we'll see. I'll just start recording and see if I can get that original idea that I was looking for. Okay, now that was 2 full measures of kind of that initial chord progression I had going, and I'm going to pull some of the volume of those notes down. As you could, I'm sure, hear, there was a little inconsistency there. And then I'm just going to have that loop in the software so that that can kind of continue playing here. Now that seems like a pretty good starting point for what I'm looking for. Now, typically I might add a bass or some drums. What I might do now, though, to keep this a little bit interesting is I kind of want a rhythmic guitar section to kind of create an undertone or foundation for that. So as that's playing here, I'll pull up a guitar rack I've got going, and what I might do is just add several effects here and just kind of hope that they all sound nice together with a little bit of knowledge. So I'm going to add a delay called sloppy delay, which is going to ping pong the notes of the guitar back and forth, changing their tone a little bit, so a little sharper, a little flat, which creates some abnormalities, which is fun. And then I'll add another delay called glitch delay, which kind of, I guess, in a way glitches the sound that's coming through and reverberates that back. And then for the reverb on top of those delays, I might go with a reverb called Gymnasium, which, again, as you might guess, emulates the sound of the guitar in a gym. So I think that might be a good place to start. Another effect I might add here, actually, just for fun, before the reverb, but after the delays, so between the delay and reverb, I'm going to add an auto panning effect, which will take essentially the signal we're getting from the guitar and kind of shoot it back and forth between the right and left sides of the audio we're running. So in my case, it'll be going back and forth on the different sides of my headphones, but if it was listened to on like two separate speakers or in a car, you would hear it kind of bouncing back and forth there. So I will get my guitar here and we'll see if we can get kind of, again, looking for just a rhythmic foundation undertone to the chord pattern we've got going on. So we'll see if we can get something going here. Maybe a little lower, maybe not necessarily looking for higher notes right away. Okay, that's sounding like something I'm looking for. I'm going to turn the metronome on too, just to make sure that I'm staying within some tempos. Okay, so I think I have an idea of what I might want to record. So I'm just going to start recording on that track of guitar and we'll see if we can get something we're happy with. Okay, now I'm going to put my guitar down, trusting that that was recorded well enough or close to well enough for what we're looking for, but I'll go into that audio track and we'll make sure that the tempo of everything is lined up. So I might move it, well, no, I think that's probably pretty close. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the metronome off so that we're just listening to the audio we've got. And an effect I'm doing in the software here really quick, just to see if I can add a little more body, a little more fullness to that guitar sound, is I'm going to duplicate the audio we just recorded, so take that bit of audio, and then with that second copy we made, bring it up an octave. So you can hear it's the same guitar except pulled up one octave to sound higher. So I'm gonna leave that there, and I'm gonna add a little more reverb to that higher octave that we've got going on, just so that it's not too identical. So I'm gonna add something called church reverb, which, again, as I'm sure you've noticed by now, just sounds like what its name is. So makes that guitar part sound like it's being played in a church or kind of a large building setting. So Now that sounds like a pretty good start, and you've still got that kind of, that crackling going on from that first keyboard we had going on. Now I might bring the volume of those guitars down a teeny bit. So now as we're going with that, I think the next thing I'm going to be looking for is probably bass and drums, so that we have kind of a lower frequency and also, you know, something rhythmic more than just the guitar we've got going on. So first I'm going to see if I can find a good bass sound here. So I'm just going to go into the bass category I've got going on in software here. And we'll see if we can find something. So that might be a little bit too punchy. We'll see. Okay. So now that sounds like something that I'm pretty happy with. I might add some reverb to this as well, just to kind of draw it out, to keep with that kind of dreamy type feel we've got going on here. So I'm going to add reverb called Cathedral Reverb. And I'm going to add a little bit, teeny bit of overdrive there, and then pull the volume down a little bit. All right, now let's see. I'm going to see if I can record just the same note pattern we've got going on with those chords. So let's see what that sounds like. Okay, now I'm going to go into the software here and quantize these notes, which is just going to pull them all into the same rhythm, so that if I played anything a little off on the keyboard, and now I'm going to change these notes around and see if that maybe matches the feel we're looking for a little bit better. And we'll see how that sounds. Hear that one more time. Okay, now that sounds pretty good to me. So I might even add a little more reverb too, just pull that up a little bit. And we drop the cutoff a little bit on that instrument and add a teeny bit more overdrive. Pull this one note down here too and see if that sounds a little better. See what that sounds like. Pull it up. Okay, now that sounds pretty satisfactory to me, so I'll keep that playing there in the background for a little bit, and we will see if we can find some drum noises that we're looking for. So I will do pretty much the same thing that I just did with the bass, where typically I'll just kind of mess around, continuing to just open up drum kits until I find something that I'm happy with. So this kit is called the hand drum kit. That might be a little too natural feeling. And that is funky for sure, that kit, but maybe not. Maybe doesn't match up. Now I kind of want to do something with that triangle we've got going on. So let's see. So let's see, let's record some of that, and I might add reverb after the fact and see if we can kind of get a more similar sound to what we're looking for. Okay, now I'm gonna go in and remove 2 of those bells, and then I'm just gonna draw this out and kind of copy and paste that over and over, just to keep that same rhythm going, essentially. see. I might add some reverb also to that triangle we've got there. Okay. So let's see, I'm gonna drag the reverb over onto that. And then I'm gonna pull the volume down too, because again, as I had kind of touched on earlier, the sound of that is pretty piercing. So now, for the drum set as a whole, I also want some reverb to kind of make it sound a little more natural and less choppy. So I think I'm going to add a reverb called Basement, which we used earlier, so that might help kind of give the same feel to all of this. Okay, so that sounds pretty good. I'm liking it except for the volume we've got going on. So I might pull that down a tad, just so that as the other instruments we have are kind of quiet, the drums don't overpower anything. Okay, now that sounds pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is copy and paste what we've got there going on now and see, I might try to add something a teeny bit rhythmic with that chord pattern we've got going on. So what I'm gonna do is copy and paste again that initial chord progression we've got going on and see if I can find maybe an arpeggiator or something like that. So the category of sounds I'm gonna go into now is called synth rhythmics. And basically it's just arpeggiators and sounds that kind of repeat notes and give a little bit of rhythm. So we'll see if we can find something that maybe fits what we're looking for. And I'm gonna pull the volume down too as I'm just like messing around with these sounds so that nothing ever overpowers what we've got. So that's a fun synth noise. Maybe not what I was expecting or looking for originally, but let's add some reverb to that. And then I'm gonna go into some delay. And then lastly, well, I don't know. I don't know if it needs to maybe pan back and forth. Okay, I'm gonna go into the drums too, the kick drum there, and I might pull its transposition down a little bit, which basically just takes that kick drum we've got going on and it takes the sample of that and pulls it down multiple octaves, kind of like what we did with the guitar, except in the reverse direction. So gives it like kind of a more punchy, deep feel. So now that sounds pretty good. It sounds pretty close to what we're, at least what I'm looking for with something like this. And again, with all of this, it's very subjective and very personal. So if you're making music or art of any kind, make it to the quality that you're happy with, following kind of what you have pictured in your mind or your heart, or if you're just messing around, obviously your opinion is the only one that really matters on that. So there's really no wrong answer. This is just kind of what I'm looking for in this particular song. So I'm gonna start this from the beginning now that we've kind of got multiple sounds we're working with here. And we'll see what we've created thus far, what it sounds like. So we've got that dirty kind of raspy keyboard we've got going on, and then that guitar starts. And I didn't add, for the sake of time, any transitions between any of these sections. But ideally you could add crash cymbals or ride cymbals or risers or anything like that to kind of concrete the transition between these little sections we've made. And that kind of was just a happy accident, but turned out kind of nice. That arpeggiator that I chose was called Sencha, and it's just kind of a fun, glitchy, Game Boy maybe sounding synth. So I think it sounds pretty nice though. So that sounds like a pretty full start of a song. So what I'm gonna do now is just kind of let it play all the way through from the beginning, and we'll see. I might tweak the reverb on the drums a teeny bit and add a little bit more, and I might bring up the volume on the guitars a teeny bit, and we'll see how that sounds. And then with all of these sections, again, copying and pasting what I had made originally and just continuing to kind of build on that. And then at the very end, with this noise we've got going on here, I had just copied and pasted that measure twice in my software so that it is drawn out for a little longer once we get to that full kind of effect, if you will. And then, so here's that second measure of all of our instruments working together. And then, as you can kind of hear, once this finishes out, again, typically you could add any sort of transition you want, but because we've got so many reverbs, when it's done, all of those instruments kind of just continue fading off into nothing. So I think that's a pretty good song for the time frame we had there, and for, again, starting from nothing. So I just want to thank you so much for joining me in this creative process, and I really do hope that it inspired you in some sort of creative sense. Maybe it made you want to make a song if you haven't before, or to make a song even if you have made music before. So I encourage you to join in this creative process with me, and to either make a song or make some art, or however it is you express yourself creatively. Again, thank you so much for joining me, and I do hope to see you again. Thank you so much. I'm going to go a second time.